Elliot Grayson was a man who had everything: money, power, and influence. He lived in a massive mansion on the outskirts of town, surrounded by luxury cars and expensive art. Yet despite his wealth, his heart was cold and his patience was thin. He had no time for the less fortunate and certainly no love for animals. To him, strays were pests, nuisances that should be removed from sight. So, when a scruffy, abandoned dog began lingering outside his grand estate, Elliot was furious. The dog, a thin, golden-furred mutt with large, sad eyes, would sit patiently at the gates, wagging its tail whenever Elliot stepped outside. One evening, as Elliot returned home in his sleek black sports car, he noticed the dog sitting in front of the driveway, blocking his path. He honked, expecting the mutt to scurry away, but the dog didn't move. It simply looked up at him, its tail wagging slightly as if it recognized him. "Elliot, get lost, you filthy animal!" But the dog didn't budge. It simply stared at him with hopeful eyes. "Elliot, go away!" The rock struck the dog's side, and with a yelp it ran off into the bushes. Elliot smirked, dusted off his hands, and walked into his house without another thought. That night a storm rolled in, thunder rumbled, and rain poured in heavy sheets. Elliot sat inside his mansion, sipping expensive whiskey, feeling content that he had finally rid himself of that mangy creature. But then a noise shattered the silence, a frantic scratching at the door. Annoyed, Elliot got up, ready to chase away whatever had the audacity to disturb him. He yanked open the door, and there, soaked and shivering, was the same dog. "Elliot, are you kidding me?" The dog wasn't there to beg for food or shelter. It was barking furiously, glancing back toward the road as if trying to tell him something. "Elliot, get lost!" But then he noticed something. The dog wasn't just barking at him, it was barking for him. The animal whimpered, looking back toward the road, and then Elliot heard it. A faint cry, almost drowned by the storm. His heart pounded. Something wasn't right. Against every cold instinct he had, Elliot grabbed a flashlight and followed the dog. The mutt led him down the driveway toward the ditch on the side of the road, and then he saw it. A small, overturned car lay there, barely visible through the rain. The headlights flickered weakly, and inside, trapped, was a woman. Blood trickled down her forehead as she struggled to move. Elliot's breath caught in his throat. He recognized her. "Elliot! Claire!" The dog had already started digging at the mud, whining desperately. Elliot scrambled forward, trying to open the car door, but it was stuck. He reached into his pocket for his phone, but it was dead. "Elliot!" To the dog, "Stay with her." And somehow it did. Elliot sprinted back to his house, called 911, and within minutes paramedics arrived. With their help, Claire was pulled from the wreckage, weak but alive. As they loaded her into the ambulance, a paramedic turned to Elliot and said, "Paramedic! If she had been out here much longer, she might not have made it." Elliot swallowed hard, glancing at the dog, who now sat by Claire's stretcher, tail wagging weakly. The realization hit him like a train. He had tried to drive this dog away, but it had saved the most important person in his life. Shame and gratitude swirled inside him. Kneeling down, he hesitantly reached out a hand toward the dog. "Elliot, I'm sorry." The dog licked his hand as if forgiving him without hesitation. Tears welled in Elliot's eyes. For the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't in a long time: human. From that day on, the once heartless millionaire changed. He adopted the dog, naming him Lucky, and dedicated his wealth to funding animal shelters and rescue organizations. The dog he once despised had taught him the greatest lesson of all. Kindness has no price, and love, even from the most unexpected places, has the power to heal even the coldest of hearts.